Walking dark alleys, weary and numb. The world thinks it owns me, and child thinks she's won. Heads on a swivel, heart is on guard. This life is relentless, it's so freaking hard. Well, I may be fragile and I may be young, but I've got a sword on my tongue. I'll give you 10 paces, 10 arrows flung, then you better run. The battle is on, beware your feet collide. You're dark and overcome, the fire in my cry. Battle is on, staring down the enemy. Only one of us will flee, and it won't be me, be me. Belt of truth is buckled, take your lies and go. Fear these bloody knuckles, this is my Alamo. I may be fragile and I may be young, but I've got a sword on my tongue, and you better run. The battle is on, beware your feet fly. You're dark and overcome, the fire in my cry. The battle is on, staring down the enemy. Only one of us will flee, and it won't be me. Your time is up, I've called your bluff. I'm standing firm, enough is enough. Now it's getting fun, now it is getting fun to watch you run. Battle is on, beware your feet fly. You're dark and overcome, there's fire in my cry. Battle is on, staring down the enemy. Only one of us will flee, and it won't be me.
When the world is cold as stone, feels like you got no place to go. Lift your head and call my name.
Gets over dubstep. Yeah. You on top of that?
I come running like a freight train. Sometimes people do you wrong, make you feel like a sad song. Lift your head and call my name. 'Cause brother, I've been through the same thing. Don't let the darkness get you down. Love will turn your life around. Think you're lost and then you're found. Don't let the darkness get you down. There's a sunrise up ahead. I know you're tired, but you're not dead. There's a fire in your soul. Oh, you're burning brighter than you'll ever know. Don't let the darkness get you down. Love will turn your life around. You think you're lost and then you're found. Don't let the call me. I will be there. I will be there. Don't let the darkness get you down. Love will turn your life around. You think you're lost, but then you're found. Don't let the darkness get you down. Oh, love will turn your life around. You think you're lost and then you're found. Don't let the darkness get you down.
Don't you know, baby, it hurt me oh so bad.
So bad, baby, don't leave me.
Temptation be in my ear gates, I treat them all like I'm deaf. I talked to God last Wednesday, got clarity while I slept. Them trials that I had crossed got me feeling like now I'm prepped. All them suicidal thoughts had me thinking I wasn't kept. I had sat down in my misery and I was contemplating my death. I had finally made the decision, I started applying steps. The devil saw my vision, he came and committed theft. Felt like Samson when they snipped him, the anointing it had left. Had some demons trying to speak that in my life. I told them go to bed. Only words that I apply to life are ones that's wrote in red. What he said, told me to believe, watch how you run ahead. Scared to face the things I had to reap, so I would run instead. Living life ignoring what another said, I cut it dead. Never have I worried about no other man or what he had. Way I'm catching blessings, you'd have thought he threw them underhand. Covenant, just put another diamond on my woman hand. I touched over $500,000 and all of that was from God talk. I just signed a published deal and I don't flex what God bought. Do this for my kids to see a different way to get success. Flight back home from Tennessee up 60K, they go be blessed. Matthew say don't glorify them treasures, store them up in heaven. Focus on eternal values, I don't worship my possessions. Feel like Usher Raymond at the altar, giving my confessions. I repent and pray and watch it wash away with my depression. Now I'm in some new shoes, I'm walking around with news to sell. Since I got the good news, I'm flaunting around with new intel. Scale of 1 to 10, where's your passion? Man, I blew the scale. You can tell, lately I've been happy like I knew Pharrell. I came from the other side like I had knew Adele. Cause a guy, he be bringing power like a Duracell. Opened up my Bible and since then I'm only doing well. Now behind them bars I'm giving life like I was through in jail. Cody just turned 2, I told my lady he might be the greatest. Said a prayer inside Mercedes, I asked God to bless my baby. Say she want a daughter, I'm like baby that's too many babies. God say when I don't be faithless, he gon' come through with them wages. Read them pages when I'm in Galatians, I can't be impatient. Revelation, see the face of God when I be seeking faces. Unashamed for Christ living, I'm unashamed, I'm Christ-like. Got Christians judging my decisions with planks all in they eyesight. How many planks in they eye? How many fake in they lives? How many pray but inside they still got some hate and pride? How many times I done cheated? How many lies I done told? Many times I've been defeated, never once doubt that I'm chose. I know that don't make it right, I work hard to get things in order. I done been in relationships I wasn't in, my heart was hardened. Shout out all my exes, all them lessons, they helped me get farther. Came up out that water for my father, I could feel the aura.
I wonder, could she sing Asleep in the Deep, always down?
Pretty deep down in the hatch for a soprano.
Many brave hearts are asleep in the deep, so beware. There. How can anybody sleep in the deep anyways?
That means the last long sleep, Star.
Does everyone have to die?
Sometime,
You and me too?
when the time comes.
Do you think we'll last till Christmas?
Sub-Zero wins. Luna wins.
He wrote the best songs. He lived the kind of life you dream about. Until 1942, when he was crushed by a giant bell. I want to be just like him.
You're never gonna believe what just happened. I did it. I got the gig. Yes. I know. Theo Williams. Can you believe it?
Help! You're gonna get hurt.
Just don't tell my mom about this, okay? You know what I'm saying? Whoa, sorry.
What's your name, honey?
I'm Joe Gardner. Look, I'm not supposed to be here.
Must have been sudden for you. Been waiting a long time for this.
For what?
The great beyond.
The great beyond? As in beyond life?
Yeah.
That's death right there?
See, in Andalasia, the hardest part of life is finding your happily ever after. Everything else seems easy. This world feels very different.
Yeah, it's true. Happily ever after is more of a concept here than it is a thing.
Really? How horribly bleak.
Don't listen to him. You gotta do you. After all, you're riding this train over and 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 over, and then you die.
It's just reality, man.
How long you guys been in here?
Time, like hope, is an illusion.
Please, we are depressed enough. There's gotta be a way out of here.
There's no escape. The only hope is the sweet relief of death.
Oh, you've got to be kidding me.
Ooh, fresh meat for the grinder.
Who's this ray of sunshine?
There's no sunshine, only darkness.
Hello, prisoners. You don't deserve this, but you're invited to the royal wedding, where you will all be ritualistically sacrificed.
Finally, mercy. Now that's a happy ending. Or is it? Because everything's over now, and all that's left is you and the infinite void. Kind of makes you want to play saxophone, huh?
Barbie, wake up. I'm like you now, ugly and unwanted. Thanks.
Hey, Barbie. Hey. Why so stressed? Could it be those irrepressible thoughts of death? Come on, we got important things to. Oh, it's her and her and me and you and pain. Goes a damn. Oh, that's cold. Beautiful from head to toe. I'm ready to go. You know, it's pain. It's gonna be alright.
Barbie. Thanks, Barbie. Gosh, this night is just perfect. It's perfectly perfect. And you look so beautiful, Barbie. Thanks, Barbie. I feel so beautiful. So do I.
This is the best day ever.
It is the best day ever, and so is yesterday, and so is tomorrow, and so is the day after tomorrow, and even Wednesdays, and every day from now until forever. Do you guys ever think about dying?
I don't know why I just said that.
Please kill me.
Hey y'all, Arson Darksea here. How y'all doing? I'm fine. Today we're going to be talking about some very dark topics, sharing some dark clips, and yeah, it's going to be pretty heavy, but as the body of Christ, and even if you're not a Christian listening to this, if you are a parent or just a half-decent person, you should want to listen to this in its entirety. You should be very concerned about this issue because it either has affected you or someone close to you, or it will. So I hope that you will all take this very seriously. I hope that you will perhaps also pray and plead the blood of Jesus Christ over your eye gates, ear gates, and skin gates, and over all electronics and all frequencies affecting you in the name of Jesus Christ, because, again, this is going to be quite disturbing, and some of these clips, I mean, who knows how it might affect you spiritually, but this needs to be said, and this needs to be shared, and as the body of Christ especially, we need to be wise as serpents and gentle as doves. In order to be wise, we need to educate ourselves in what the enemy is up to. We need to know what they're planning on doing, what they're currently doing, and what they have done. Even though the devil and everyone that works for him is a low, dirty dog, to say the least, we need to not underestimate what they are capable of when they put their mind to things. Their puny, satanic little minds. They are incredibly organized, and if you know anything about predictive programming, if you know about Project Paperclip, MKUltra, and other things that they have done, you know that they're organized, and you know that they hate us, every single one of us, no matter what we believe. Even if some of you are out there worshiping the devil and you call yourself a witch or a Satanist, even if you think you love the devil, they still hate your guts and they want you gone. The devil's never satisfied with just making us miserable. He wants us gone from this earth. And what I share with you today is going to make it incredibly clear. Before I begin, I want to say thank you to everyone who has supported me. Thank you to everyone that has kept me in your prayers. I truly appreciate and love each and every one of you. If you feel led to support this channel, even if you only have an extra $1, I truly appreciate it. Again, I am not monetized on any channels or websites or anything that I'm a part of. We have a locals page. I think there's one person that has a paid account on there where I get like $5 a month. That's as close to being monetized as I get. So yeah. No matter how many views my videos get on here, I'm not getting a single penny from it. So it really does mean a lot for anybody who is feeling led to donate. And the link should be here on the screen and in the description and somewhere in the comment section, because YouTube does not let me pin my comments on this channel, even though they let me do it like 2 or 3 years ago. They don't let me do it anymore on here. I don't know why. I'm doing what I can on here, and they just want to make it difficult for people to find comments, and also not just find comments, but also for me to put links anywhere that you can click. Sometimes they don't even let me do that. So anyway, if you want to donate, there are the links. I appreciate it. Please also join our locals page. You can make a free or a paid account. Once we get to 50 members, and we're very close, every member is greatly appreciated and goes a long way, trust me. Once we get to 50 members on there, I'll be able to do so much more. I can do live streams for a good amount of time. I can post longer videos because they'll let me do like 5 gigabytes a month, so on and so forth. Please join locals and my ODYSEE page and everything else. Thank you. Programming hopelessness. This may be true for humans of all ages, but children are influenced on a much deeper level than us adults realize. When I was a child, if I didn't fully believe something, I would reenact whatever I watched to some degree, and some, if not all of what I watched, became a small part of me. When we watch something, our brain interprets it as if we had done that very thing ourselves. This is proven in psychology and something you can research. We may try to delude ourselves into thinking that the seemingly harmless television designed for children is, indeed, harmless, and that even these undertones and overt jokes in children's entertainment won't negatively affect them, and that people like myself are reaching.
Hey there! You know what we call that? Denial. Can you say denial?
But I can guarantee you that it absolutely can negatively affect your children, and in this video, I'll be showing you how this particular programming has been created to stumble your children in the worst way. After programming overthinking, anxiety, and overanalyzing social situations...
Hey, everybody focus! Val's leading us into their holy inner sanctum. Here we are! These girls are so cool! And older.
Hey, you want to sit with us? Oh, she wants to sit with us! Everything is beautiful!
There's not enough room for Bree and Grace. Let's go sit over there.
I was gonna go save seats for my friends, but thanks anyway.
Yeah, okay. No worries. See? Was that so hard?
No, you're totally right. That decision's not gonna haunt us for the rest of our lives at all.
The first goal is programming hopelessness. The movie Inside Out is just one small example. Programming your child to subconsciously believe that a part of them will always be sorrowful. Just watching a few minutes of the character Joy constantly try to cheer up a character that is cursed to always be depressed, with few fleeting moments of optimism, irritated and exhausted me. I was exhausted imagining what it must be like to be Joy, knowing that you're doomed to be imprisoned with a character like that, by definition, can never change and will always be miserable. I was irritated knowing that countless children have seen this movie and were programmed with this garbage while their parents were none the wiser, eventually being surprised when their children display similar issues that the characters in their favorite entertainment portray. They're made to subconsciously believe that a part of them will always be sad, and that it's impossible for every part of them to be joyful, which Jesus Christ provides. They're made to believe that memories will fade and eventually be gone forever.
Don't obsess over the weight of life's problems. Remember the funny movie where the dog dies? Sadness, we don't have time for this. We'll just have to go around. Take the scenic route. Don't touch. Remember, if you touch them, they stay sad.
Oh, sorry, I won't. Starting now.
Oh, I can't take much more of this. Mind workers.
Phone numbers. We don't need all these. They're in her phone.
Just forget all of that, please.
Hi.
Forget it!
I need to find
Look at
Friendship
this.
Island.
4 years of piano lessons.
Yeah, it looks pretty faded.
You know what? Save chopsticks and heart and soul, get rid of the rest. U.S. presidents, what do you think?
Yeah, just keep Washington, Lincoln, and the Fab one.
Forget them!
Hey, you can't throw those away. Those are perfectly good memories.
Forget them!
Hey, bring those back.
They're in the dump. Nothing comes back from the dump. When Riley doesn't care about a memory, it fades.
Fade?
Happens to the best of them.
Jesus Christ sees everything, remembers everything, and stores all of our memories safely with Him, where they will never fade or be forgotten. If there is something good worth remembering and we have a relationship with Jesus, all we need to do is simply ask Him and He will remind us. This movie and so many like it cut out the truth and offer hopelessness at the root. Even the funniest and most lighthearted movies, especially modern ones, fail to provide the human sponge desperately seeking answers with the source of all of this humor and joy. Even if a child watches lighthearted things and grows up with a lot of laughter in their life, if they aren't firmly rooted in Jesus Christ, they will have no source for their joy and will eventually run out. Some people seem joyful in life, even at an old age, but they either have to stay away from heavy issues or, regardless, will find themselves eternally miserable without the presence of God. If you are a Christian who knows the truth, you know that the devil is running this world until Jesus Christ returns. You know that the devil is in charge of the world government, all politicians, all presidents, all kings and queens, prime ministers, etc. He is also responsible for why and how technology was introduced to us in the first place, and he is in charge of what is shown on TV and in theaters. If you'd like more information on the history of these things and how they programmed, the very first movies, silent movies, the very first Disney movies and things like that, I highly, highly, highly suggest you praying and then watching my Tim Burton's Hard Drive documentary. The devil doesn't want to entertain us or make us happy. Anything that he does that seems like it is merely an illusion. The main reason that the devil created bread and circuses was to distract us from everything else that he was doing, just like how a magician waves his left hand to distract you from the trick he's pulling with his right hand. The reason that the devil made other things, like television, was not only to distract us, but to program us. A lot of programming is to cause anger and division, but one that isn't being talked about enough and is ramping up is euthanasia programming. For the devil, the bottom line is death. Sure, he enjoys making us miserable in various ways, but he ultimately wants to take our lives before we are saved by Jesus Christ, and he wants to do it as early as possible. Abortion is useful to the devil, but only to an extent. It stops more life from walking this earth and potentially spreading the gospel to much more people. However, no aborted child has reached the age of accountability, so they all go straight to heaven and gain everlasting life. When it comes to children who are already born, the devil does everything he can to program them to end their life, if not also the lives of others, as soon as they reach the age of accountability. He programs them through the words and actions of others, but he also makes sure to program them through movies and shows. If you watch some family shows from the 70s, then the 80s, then the 90s, up to current family entertainment, you will witness a disturbing increase in depression and suicide programming. Nowadays, characters are asking for death bluntly. It doesn't belong in any entertainment, but especially not children's. I used to never hear about children taking their own lives, but over the last decade or so, the amount of cases has become overwhelming. I think I was still a teenager when I saw an article about a little boy who took his life, and I remember being shocked, never hearing about someone so young doing such a horrible thing. Over the last few years, I've seen and heard so many similar stories that I can't even put a number to it, and I sadly know that there are many more cases out there that I haven't even heard of, but could find if I looked. This isn't coincidental by any means. This is a mixture of what children are experiencing physically and spiritually, with children's media being the main culprit physically. Like I explained in my video called Children Are Changing, what these children watch is what they come into agreement with, and that is what allows demons to possess them. If a child is watching the suicide programming, it'll eventually work its way from their subconscious mind to the forefront of their mind, especially with the aid of demons constantly advocating for the worst. When the child goes through hardships, these demons, along with that programming, will work together to give them dark thoughts while in emotional pain, and if they come into agreement with that, they can become possessed with the spirits of heaviness and suicide.
I got my pistol, my .44 Magnum pistol, and I loaded it, and I put it in my mouth, and I remember cocking the hammer back, and I was just starting to pull the trigger, and all of a sudden this thought came into my head. It was God. I heard this voice say, "Your children are going to go to your funeral, knowing you're in that casket with no head." And that shocked me to stop for a minute and think of the trauma that it would cause my kids to know that I blew my brains out in my bedroom. And so I took the pistol out of my mouth and I looked up at the ceiling. I said, "God, I don't know if you are real, but if you're real, you've got to do something with me or you have got to let me die. I can't make it one more day on this planet." Once I said that, the power of God came down in my bedroom. It knocked me to the floor. I I remember falling this way, and I remember seeing the gun go the other way, and I hit the floor. And that night, Jesus came. He picked me up by the back of my neck and held me out over the world and showed me his plan for my life. He said, if you'll follow me, I'll do all this through your life. And I said, yes, Lord, I will follow you. And he loves to come into broken people in desperate situations and change their life.
Euthanasia.
Because I'm actually quite a fan of Peter Singer.
Do you agree with him that parents should be able to kill a child up to 3 months after birth?
Under exceptional circumstances, yes.
What would those exceptional circumstances be that you would agree that infanticide is okay?
If the child has a terminal illness that makes their life full of suffering and there's no hope of them being cured, then I think in that exceptional circumstance you can put the child out of its misery. I mean,
who are
inevitably.
You to say that you're going to suffer? Because here's the deal, man. We're all going to suffer. Every single one of us suffers. That's actually part of being human. Our life is suffering. And we all suffer physically. Some of us suffer emotionally. Some of our suffering's public, some of it's not.
I don't deny that people suffer.
But because your argument's scary, because your argument is that, well, the child's going to suffer, therefore I get to decide, or society gets to decide whether or not it has the right to life. And I would argue that becomes a very slippery slope because all of us are going to suffer. That's part of the human condition.
This is just obviously a horrifying story, but it is indicative of a culture in which people feel that our own children are not precious things to be saved. They are accessories to be dispensed with if they become inconvenient. So, by the way, are sick and are elderly, which is why in Canada, euthanasia has become such a convenience to so many people. Quebec, for example, is the world's leading euthanasia hotspot, according to the UK Daily Mail. 7% of all deaths in Quebec are now lethal injection. Officials there are expanding access to Alzheimer's sufferers, and they are forcing all hospices to offer assisted suicide.
There's a big push for euthanasia.
Oh, man. It's so crazy what's happening. The way the Netherlands is ahead of this is they are now making it possible to have parents agree to put their child to death, even if the child doesn't want it. It's unbelievable what's happening with valuing death over life.
The enemy comes to steal, kill, and destroy. So his job is to wipe out the creation of man. I mean, that's his job. Any way he can. His tactics are always death. The Lord's tactics are always life.
God is yearning to say to the whole creation, your life is valuable to me. I know you go through hardship. I know you go through struggle. I know you're in the middle of pain. Your life is important to me. I know I'm talking almost at an ideal level because most of our communities aren't doing that, but that's the redemption of the Christian community in this world.
Stories of desperate poverty are not hard to find in this country, but every once in a while there's one that stops even the most hardened and blasé ones among us in our tracks. A 42-year-old man in Agra has decided to write to President Pranab Mukherjee pleading for mercy killing for 6 of his 8 children. They suffer from a rare neurological disease. Kinchu Dang reports.
Kuber, the eldest in his family, is getting ready to go to the mosque to offer his prayers on the occasion of Shab-e-Barat. But 6 of his brothers and sisters cannot accompany him because of a rare neurological disorder called Canavan that has left them weaker and more paralyzed with each passing year. Something that has forced Najir, their father, to write to President Pranab Mukherjee seeking permission to end their lives.
इतनी आमदनी है मेरी छोटी सी दुकान है अगर मैं दुकान की तरफ ध्यान लगाता हूं तो बच्चों की तरफ बच्चे बीमार रहते हैं और बच्चों की तरफ आता हूं तो दुकान पट हो जाती है
तो अब आपकी क्या मांग है
मेरी मांग है या तो इच्छा मुक्ति या दे दिया है या फिर इनका इलाज करा दिया
Doctors say this disease is incurable.
It's a neurological disorder. It affects the white matter of the brain and it's progressive and down the line in a few years time they may become bedridden. They may have seizures and they may not survive beyond the first decade or at the most up until the teens. So it's a severe genetic disorder.
This is the closest his brother Kashif can come to offering his prayers. But the administration has promised help.
आधार कार्ड और बीपीएल कार्ड उनका बन जाएगा, इसके बाद उनको सारी सुविधाएं निःशुल्क मिलेंगी और आई होप कि 2-3 दिनों में उनको सुविधा मिलनी शुरू हो जाएगी।
2 of these children, Asim and Kashif, have been receiving physiotherapy treatment at a nearby clinic almost free of cost. But that is not enough.
बच्चे गर्दन भी नहीं संभाल सकते थे, प्लस ना सिटिंग थी, ना कुछ, ना अपने हाथों से कुछ खा सकते थे, पानी भी नहीं पी सकते थे। कि मैं ओनली एक थेरेपिस्ट हूँ, अगर किसी अच्छे डॉक्टरों को न्यूरोफिजिशियन है, न्यूरोसर्जन वगैरह को दिखाया जाए तो मेडिसिन में भी इन बच्चों की रिकवरी की जा सकती है।
While the demand of these parents for euthanasia does not fall into the 2011 Supreme Court guidelines that allows for passive euthanasia in extreme cases, the heartbreaking story of these 6 young children is testimony of lack of access to affordable healthcare in our country. In Agra, with camera person Raju Punya, Kinshu Dang for NDTV.
Unfortunately, the devil has been quietly working to legalize euthanasia worldwide, which I covered in a documentary called The Televised Child Sacrifice and the Human Expiration Date, which I will leave a link to in the description if you'd like to see it. The slippery slope argument is true.
But that was just part 1 of my plan. There's a part 2? A good plan has many parts, Joy.
The devil first said that it was for extremely ill old people, then for extremely ill younger people, then ill or depressed adults, and now for depressed or ill mature minors. It's manipulative in multiple ways, one being the wording itself, quote unquote, for mature minors. I don't know about you, but throughout my childhood, I considered myself to be mature at any age that I was. Especially after the age of 11, I felt like I was a little adult. If I was suffering, desiring death, and was told that decision was only for mature minors, I would immediately shout, "Well, I'm mature." How many children will be self-aware enough to realize that they aren't mature? There is no such thing as a mature minor, especially one mature enough to make the monumental decision to take their own life. In fact, no one is mature enough to make that decision. It's not a matter of maturity in the first place. It's a matter of right and wrong. It's a matter that demands the person to have complete informed consent. Unfortunately, if you're seeking enough information to consent to such a thing, you receive it from the medical staff that's offering you the option of euthanasia. If you only listen to them, you will only be receiving, at most, half of the pertinent information because doctors are stationed in the physical realm, while the majority of the topic exists in the spiritual realm. If everyone truly knew all of the information, both physical and spiritual, nobody would go through with euthanasia because nobody wants to spend eternity in hell. They would all realize that if it was their time to go, they wouldn't be here. They would all turn to Jesus Christ and either be miraculously healed or put out of their misery. Not on their time, but on God's time. Many of us have struggled with depression. Most people have had at least one time in their life when they wanted to die. Before I found Jesus Christ, I was absolutely miserable. I had practically no quality of life, wasn't even comfortable in my own skin. Every day, starting from the second I woke up, my heart would be pounding out of my chest, and I felt panic and dread that I had to live another day and didn't die in my sleep. And no matter how hard I tried, I would attempt to take my own life nearly every day for about 2 years leading up till I found Jesus Christ. I still have the suicide note that I wrote to my family and friends. I remember crying while telling my grandfather that this will probably be the last time that you see me because I can't stand to live anymore. I honestly thought that I had no future, that I was worthless, and that I was born to die by my own hand at the age of 22. I did everything my doctors told me and I only got worse. I never thought that I would get better or be truly happy. I began to think that happiness was just an illusion and something in fairy tales. It wasn't until I found Jesus Christ and He delivered me of the demons possessing me when I received true joy and purpose. I never felt depressed or suicidal again. I never felt dread for waking up to see another day. I never felt panic like I used to, like the whole world was falling apart with no hope. No matter what challenges that I've faced since finding Jesus Christ, I have never been able to shake this deep-rooted hope that lives within me, knowing that I now have a close relationship with God Almighty, and that even if I'm no longer on this earth, I will still be very much alive and happier than I've ever been, to forever be in the presence of my loving Heavenly Father. I'm thankful that it wasn't legal anywhere near me back then, and that I didn't have a chance of running into a sorry excuse for a doctor that would even recommend such a wicked thing. The children are being primed for suicide, and in a time where it is becoming increasingly more legalized and normalized. I stumbled across a live stream that I made nearly 5 years ago called Lethal Injection Prayer, where I was praying over this girl that I knew named Gia, who was a schizophrenic Japanese student who was desperately seeking a doctor that would facilitate euthanasia for her, because she was absolutely miserable. She would fast for long periods of time while having one-night stands, which no doubt added to the demons tormenting her. I knew her before I became a Christian. Less than a month after being baptized, I joined one of her live streams and tried to preach to her. She got ridiculously defensive and angry, calling me names and cussing at me many times. After stumbling upon that live stream again, I decided to look her up. I found almost nothing. Almost every account of hers had been deleted. I fear that she may have actually found an evil doctor who allowed her to go through with it. She was willing to visit other countries for it after all. If any of you happen to know her and what happened to her, please email me at arsondarksea@gmail.com. I don't want to bother anyone, I just get a sinking feeling when I think about her and I just want to know if she's okay. But yes, this issue has affected me personally in more than one way and has affected many others. And the problem will only continue to grow until Jesus Christ returns to clean house. Death is now treated in such a casual manner because we live in a world of selfishness, a world of pressure, and a world of rushing. Now, depending on where you live, when a loved one chooses euthanasia, the most you may receive is a WhatsApp message informing you of what's happened and that their ashes will be arriving shortly. Again, it's a slippery slope, and we're forced to witness it. We've seen how the second most severe thing that a human being can do was, and still is, treated as though it's nothing. I was 16 when Jersey Shore was released, and I remember being absolutely shocked to see how casually sex was treated. Men would meet women at the club or whatever, probably not even exchange first names, go straight to intercourse with a complete stranger, and then call a taxi to send the chick home. I had never seen such a thing. Sure, I heard of one-night stands, but I figured it was something pretty rare in general, and when it would happen, it may only happen once or twice in that person's life. But this opened up a whole new world to me that I never knew, where the same people would gladly go out and bang strangers night after night after night like it was nothing. What about disease or pregnancy? Well, people just stopped caring about those things like they used to. You can't sell me the idea that a person cares about those things while running out and having intercourse with 1 or 2 new people every day. Anyone who claims such is completely delusional. Sex is the most powerful thing that our bodies can do. There is nothing else that we can do naturally that is as powerful as what sex can potentially do, and that is to create life. The only thing more severe that we can choose to do with our lives is to end them. Bringing life into the world is one thing, where a child has all kinds of potential to get things right, but deciding to end your life means that you've bought a one-way ticket to hell. I don't see anything as more severe. We're being programmed to become desensitized to sex and death. We already have some sicko who has created a kill switch implant. Yeah, again, we already have some sicko who has created a kill switch implant for dementia patients. With what we know about the slippery slope, how long will it be before that kill switch is available or even mandatory for all of us? Where will we draw the line? And perhaps more importantly, when? Another thing that we've been desensitized with is our speech. Words have so much power, and the Bible tells us that everything was made through God's word. God made us so special. He gave us a small piece of his power. He gave us authority over all of these serpents, authority over the whole world. And our voices carry so much power. There's at least one time where somebody says that someone's going to die in the Bible, and they die. There are so many times where stuff is spoken by humans in the Bible, and it happens. Sometimes good, sometimes bad, and God keeps trying to show us to be careful about what you say, because your words have more power than you can imagine. And how do people talk nowadays? How do they think it's okay to speak, even when there's children around? They think it's okay to drop F-bombs, F this, S that, H, D, whatever kind of cuss words. And even when they're not cussing, they're like, oh, I'm dying laughing. I'm going to kill you. My mom's going to kill me if she finds out. We say things so casually now, and it means nothing to us. We've been desensitized on such vital levels. If you are a parent who wants to combat this issue and keep your children safe, ensure that your children are covered spiritually above all else. Make sure that you have been born again and have a close relationship with Jesus Christ. Make sure to get baptized. Pray with your children every morning and before bed. Read the Bible to your children daily, even if sometimes it's just a scripture. Don't let your children befriend or remain friends with bad influences. Take away the screens while you take your time educating yourself on symbolism and programming in general. The channel and website, A Call for an Uprising, is excellent with breaking all of that down and proving where it all originates. Don't let your children watch anything that you haven't. Even if you've seen the first few episodes of a show, many shows now do this bait and switch method where the first episodes or seasons remain innocent before ramping up into something that the parent hardly recognizes. A great example is the show Steven Universe, where the first few episodes seem harmless, and by the end of the show, it's established that there is a planet with only lesbian aliens that are now having relationships and getting, pretend married on Earth.
We are gathered here today to celebrate Ruby and Sapphire, two of my favorite people, who combine into one of my other favorite people. You all probably know her as Garnet. She is their love, given form.
I know this is all kind of silly. We've been together for 5,750 years.
And 8 months.
I used to feel like I wasn't much good, just one of me on my own. But when we're together, it feels like it's okay to just be me. So I want to be me with you.
Ruby, my future used to look like one single, obvious stream, unbending till the end of time. In an instant, you pulled me from that destiny and opened my eye to an explosion of infinite possible futures, streaking across space and time, altered and obliterated by the smallest force of will. What I mean is, you changed my life. And then I changed your life. And now we change our lives.
I've heard that Paw Patrol, Bluey, and Cocomelon have been caught using the same tactic. Wait to gain the parents' trust enough for them to look away, and then crank the programming up to 100. Don't let your children watch a single episode without you seeing it first. Ever. Don't let your child use a phone or tablet, and especially never give them one of their own. Even online schools have been caught pushing nasty curriculums onto children, so make sure that you look at everything before your children do. Yes, it will take more time and effort doing things the right way, but your child's well-being should be more than worth it to you. I'm going to play some clips from some videos that were quite shocking to me while I was researching this topic. And God bless you all in the mighty name of Jesus Christ. I'm sorry if my voice has changed throughout the video. I'm overcoming some, whatever you call it. They call it the super flu, but it's really just, satanic government, demonic fog stuff. So, this is the most I've talked in over a week. So my voice is starting to give out a little bit. I think I'm going to have some hot chocolate here in a minute. God bless y'all in Jesus' name. Keep your children safe and pray for all the children in the world. Toodaloo.
Children are next. They're trying to push through euthanasia for children with severe illnesses or terminal condition. So the child of a certain age could themselves, without their parents' consent, ask for mate. That's what they're trying to pass, yeah. It'll be under the guise of chronic illness and stuff. So there's at least been 2 or 3 cases of people in poverty, unable to pay bills, looking at homelessness, choosing mate first. Like, the numbers are crazy. Let me get the stats up here. And in 2016, 1,018 people chose to die by mate.
Okay.
In 2017, 2,838 people died by mate, a doubling at least. 2018, 4,493, double again. 2019, 5,665.
This is David Cook with Campaign Life Coalition. Believe it or not, the Quebec College of Physicians has recommended that children age 14 and above who are in a very sick or disabling condition be provided with euthanasia upon request.
Let's set the record straight, please. Medical assistance in dying is a form of care, a medical act that may be appropriate in certain circumstances. It is not a political or moral or religious issue. It is a medical issue. In the same vein, for mature minors, aged 14 to 18, our thinking is based on the following considerations. Suffering does not take age into account. Suffering has no age. The law already recognises the right of minors from the age of 14 to consent alone to certain types of care such as abortion. On the issue of babies from 0 to 1 year of age, the college believes that for this group as well, medical assistance in dying can offer an ethical and responsible alternative to avoid an unacceptable and unavoidable end of life in unbearable suffering.
They just killed my mother.
Consent to euthanasia is sometimes ignored in the Netherlands.
And I said, the cause of death, what's the cause of death? And she said pneumonia and heart failure. But I thought, I was laying in my bed and thought, no, that was not. It was that little injection you gave her.
And in neighboring Belgium, people with disabilities are being targeted.
We were walking with our child in her wheelchair, and we would have people that we do not know. And they would come towards us, and they would ask us, why don't you have euthanasia with that child?
Even those in favor of euthanasia in the Netherlands say we've gone too far.
People who are fighting their fear of life and fighting against death flock to the life-ending clinic. And then you see that there is a slippery slope.
And now the Dutch Health Minister Hugo de Jonge has announced the expansion of euthanasia to include children.
What we have seen here in the Netherlands and in Belgium is that the euthanasia practice has broadened.
When euthanasia was legalized in the Netherlands, it was based on an adult who was capable of consent. But as Marguerite van der Valk found out, doctors sometimes make the decision to euthanize patients on their own.
And he said, the decision to let her go or to let her live, you couldn't make because you were not there, so I made it. Because they said my mother was depressed, but she was not depressed.
Lionel Roosmount lives in Belgium. His daughter Tikva has lived with a significant brain condition from birth. It's hard to believe, but people often ask him why he hasn't euthanized his daughter.
Our children were there when people were telling us to have euthanasia with her. And my daughter, who was 13 at the time, she said, they do not have the right to say that. She was very angry, but she was right. She's a joy for every one of our family members. We cannot imagine her being gone. Impossible.
Dr. Badwin Chabot, sometimes called the pioneer of euthanasia in the Netherlands, sees a real culture shift as people with psychological illnesses are now being euthanized.
We do slide down with demented, brain diseases and psychiatric cases. But on the whole, you have to see it in perspective. These are over 216, these two groups together were 200 of the 6,000. That's small. That's always the argument the review committee says, won't worry, Mr. Chabot, it's only 200 cases. So that's the way they reassure the public. But I say, look at the steep rise in 7 years.
Will this also apply to patients with psychiatric disorders? Will this also apply to patients with Alzheimer's disease? Will this even apply to patients with advanced Alzheimer's disease? Will this apply to babies? Will this apply to children?
Indeed, the Netherlands is now considering the expansion of euthanasia to children. Many people are sounding the alarm bells with the concern that this is one step too far.
Tikva has been a testimony to us. If today you go through Belgium, you will not see many young children that have a handicap because they were not left to be alive.
November, so yeah, it's a good old time to be alive. Today we're going to be talking about the issue of euthanasia, and it's not uncommon to hear people talking about big tobacco and big pharma. I think now it's pretty clear that we can add the concept of big euthanasia, as some are now doing, to the public consciousness, the lexicon of phrases that we use to describe the state of affairs in our culture and what's going on. And there's a particular push at the moment for child euthanasia that is growing around the globe. I want to get to that, but before I get to that, I want to start by sharing with you a recent example of adult euthanasia and what's going on there culturally, because I think it paints a, I would say, fairly typical and picture, and I think it gives a good insight into the state of affairs at that level before we even talk about the expansion into euthanasia of minors, of underage children. Well, children in general. It's a bit redundant to say underage children, isn't it? But children in general. First of all, though, I am constantly reminded when I contemplate and reflect on the current state of Western culture of the chorus of a song that was originally a poem, actually, I believe, by Leonard Cohen. I like Leonard Cohen, and his lyrics are often very incisive and cutting and straight to the point. And he's got a song called Darkness, and the chorus of that song goes like this. I caught the darkness, it was drinking from your cup. I caught the darkness, I'm drinking from your cup. I said, is this contagious? You said, just drink it up. And I think that is a perfect summation of what has happened and what continues to sort of unfurl itself upon the West. This growing darkness, this cultural void, where once there was a culture that was provided by Christianity, the word cult, and we use the phrase in a negative way today, but cult as in, the concept of religious cult in a positive sense, that was present. So there was a religious underpinning, the Christian tradition, that has been stripped away. And as G.K. Chesterton once famously said, when man stops believing in God, he doesn't believe nothing, he believes anything. So there's a void, a vacuum that's left, and that vacuum is just, as St. Augustine would say, it's a privation, an absence of the good. And so we are sort of seeing this darkness, this growing darkness, and it is starting to consume more and more things. And it seems very relevant, those lines from Leonard Cohen, to what we're going to talk about today, because you see this growing darkness, and everyone's told, don't worry, it's just legalized euthanasia, it's just free choice, it's not a big deal, people are finding their freedom, they're going to be spared from a painful death, just drink it up. And no one's stopping to really ask this question about A, what are we doing here? And B, how contagious is this? And what we are going to be talking about in this episode really is a reflection of the contagious nature of that darkness and where things are actually at. Before I jump into the issue of the growing push for child euthanasia, I want to just start by exploring this story that was recently published in People magazine. I'm scrolling back up to double check the dates of this article. Yes, it was the 8th of October. And it's a story, an article that's told from the perspective of the adult daughter of this couple here who have both been euthanized, and they were euthanized together. And I want to look at this and just sort of, I don't want to go through the whole article. It's quite a lengthy article. You can read it for yourself if you want to. But I just want to explore some of the particulars because they paint a pretty damning picture of the state of affairs of what euthanasia has sort of typically become, or is fast on track to become in most countries, even those who might have legalized it more recently. This particular incident took place in America in Washington state, and they legalized in 2008. And so they're a few years ahead of some other jurisdictions, but this is the typical trajectory, and this is the couple here, Drews and Eva Newman. And as I said, the story is told from the perspective of their daughter. So let's read some of these key points. So basically, just to sort of set the stage, the mother has been approved for euthanasia. She has a condition, she qualifies, and this creates a bit of a quandary within the family. So let's read about this. Meanwhile, Eva's decision to die, so that's the mother, to have euthanasia, left Drews, the husband, distraught. And this is the daughter talking now. I had a very interesting, serious heart-to-heart conversation with him, that's her father, one evening after my mum had gone to bed, Corinne shares. And he was just panicked, like, what happens to me if she goes first? That's always been a concern of his. He couldn't see a scenario where he would want to continue if mum was gone. So just to set the stage, what you've got here is a situation with a dad who is really panicked and concerned. This is the worst possible scenario for anybody to be making major decisions, let alone something with the gravity of euthanasia. And it's exactly in this moment that the daughter inserts herself in such a way as to facilitate what happens next. And you see, this is not me saying this is based on her description here. You can see that she is consistently involved in this process, and it feels a lot like she is the central player rather than her parents, who are the very people who will be euthanized in this process. Drews ultimately let his daughter know that although he had recovered from the stroke, so he had a previous stroke, but he's now fine, so he doesn't have any conditions. He wanted to choose euthanasia, if eligible, and end his life alongside Eva. Now, in Washington state, you can't have euthanasia. It's got to be assisted suicide. So that's what they're talking about when they say made, and that's how I'm using that word. I use the two words interchangeably. If you've been listening for a while, you'll know this, but that's the scenario. He's always been afraid of dying. This is her talking again, the daughter. But I think he was more afraid of being left alone, she explains. He was like, well, if she's going to go, in other words, have a euthanasia, and I have the option to go at the same time, then I'm getting on that horse. So this is a man who's desperate and afraid of being without his wife. That's the motivation here. It's not relief from suffering. It's fear. It's panic. It's loneliness. It's isolation. It's the loss of something as significant as his wife in his life, which is understandable, that the gap that would leave in a man's life. But that's what's motivating him here. And this is not unusual. This is very typical of what's really going on with legalized euthanasia, among other things. Alongside things like the fear of being a burden, or the belief that you are a burden on your family if you remain alive and living. So I was like, and this is the daughter, remember, speaking in response to her father saying this. So I was like, look, we'll figure something out. And that's exactly what she goes on to do. From that point, Corinne was constantly on the phone speaking to hospice coordinators and doctors, trying to get her dad qualified for hospice and MAID, for assisted suicide. So she, instead of actually trying to assist her father through this process with what I would call genuine care, she then becomes his lobbyist to try and get him euthanized, even though she knows that he is not eligible because he doesn't have a condition that meets the criteria. And secondly, that what's really motivating him here is fear and loneliness and loss of his wife. And it doesn't matter. She just becomes the advocate. And we can look at this two ways. One is to say, well, this is crazy. This is a lack of care, which can be intentional. Someone who just doesn't know how to care well, or is not caring. And it's like, yeah, well, let's get on with this. Or it could be someone who is just so overwhelmed with the typical autonomous self-choosing individualism of modern liberalism. Like it's just become such a dominant thought now, and is such a pervasive ideology that it is now so destructive that we don't recognize like the breakdown of community when we see it. We don't recognize a man who has lost community and is afraid and fearful of what that means in his life. And so we think, well, I've got to honor his desire. I can't I can't not do this. I can't say to my dad, hey, Dad, maybe there's a better way. I've actually got to become his advocate to ensure that his liberal desires can be satisfied and no one should ever hinder those desires. It's just horrific, no matter which way you spin this, no matter which way you look at it. It is horrific. In fact, she goes on to say, she admits it was surreal to be essentially advocating for her own father's death. But here's the thing. There's this, how he gets qualified, even though they say by mid-June, Druce was successfully qualified based on his history of mini strokes. This is really dubious. Have a listen to this next bit. Corinne says it was a race to get her dad qualified, and the justification from the doctors came down to the strong possibility of her father suffering a stroke that wouldn't kill him, but would leave him incapacitated. So in other words, he's not incapacitated, he's not sick, he's not terminal. It came down, the justification used was, well, there is a possibility, a strong possibility that he could suffer a stroke in future. You know, a stroke that wouldn't kill him, but would leave him incapacitated. That's quite a normal occurrence for people as they get older. Stroke is not an unusual thing. But here you can see stroke, and not just stroke, but the possibility of stroke is being treated as if it is such an aberrant condition that it would qualify for someone being given a lethal dose to kill them. This is the true nature of what euthanasia, legalized euthanasia is. It is, as some have described it, it is like a death cult. There is an old saying that goes back several decades where someone once said, once you find one reason that you think is good to justify ending someone's life with a lethal injection, and once you cross that Rubicon and legalize that act, you then start finding lots and lots of other reasons that you think are good to justify doing the same thing to lots of other people as well. And this is a classic example. The darkness is contagious, as Leonard Cohen would say to us. Corinne decided to spend the last few weeks of her parents' lives enjoying as much quality time as she could. She would host special family dinners for them, making them their favourite meals, drinking champagne and sharing childhood stories as a way to repay my parents for everything they'd done for me. Now, no offence to Corinne here, but this is not repaying your parents for what they've done for you. Having champagne and putting on special family dinners and favourite meals and sharing memories, these are lovely and they are hallmarks of a healthy, flourishing family life. They're good things. But I'm telling you right now, what I owe my parents for what they have done for me and the way they've cared for me when I was younger, this is not it. The way I truly repay and care for them is to care for them and give them dignity through their death. And it's not champagne and dinners. It's embracing them and loving them and being there with practical care as they die a natural death. That's how you repay it. So you can see already there's this sort of confusion that's going on here. This is very much what you would call a Rousseauian, as in Jean-Jacques Rousseau, the Enlightenment philosopher, who really, for Rousseau, feelings are God. Feelings are the thing that, really that he worships, sentiment. And feelings are the sort of the guide of moral correctness and behavior in life. And that's what we're seeing here. It's a confusion about reality. It is not real to say that you are repaying your parents the debt that they have, that you've incurred in a sense. Not that they see it as a debt. They give. It's self-giving love, right? But that quote-unquote debt that they've given to you by raising you is somehow returned by having champagne and dinners and sharing happy memories with them. That's good stuff. It's important stuff. But the debt is much bigger than that. And what happens is if you have a sort of feelings-based approach to this, reality and the logic of and the truth of things sort of gets lost in the framing of how you view your life and your actions. And that's, I think, a classic example of what we're seeing here. Corinne even recalls the moment she received the lethal medication, which she calls the cocktail from the pharmacy, which again is another fascinating insight. And you'll see this a couple of times here. Why wouldn't you just call it what it is? When you call it the cocktail, this is presented as if these people are doing this heroic thing. They've embraced death. They have stared down death. They've looked it in the eyes, and they are the truly courageous. They're not afraid of it. But in actual fact, the use of euphemisms tells you that you're trying to deny something. You're trying to push something down. So instead of just calling it what it is, you call it the cocktail because it's easier than sort of facing up to what's really going on. But have a listen to this description. On July the 27th, the day before my mother's C birthday, there was is that a mistake? Maybe that means just birthday and they've put a C in there. Sorry, I'm not sure. That might be something in the family. But on July the 27th, the day before mother's birthday, there was a knock on the door. This gentleman from the pharmacy comes and has two white packages. The top is stapled shut. One has my mum's name on it. One has my dad's name on it. This is, by the way, this is now like the quietus that you read about, you see in the film depiction of Children of Men. In the book, it's a ceremony, the quietus, but in the film depiction by Alfonso Cuarón, the quietus is a drug. You receive this box in the mail, this euthanasia pill in the mail. And that's what this description is, right? It's dystopian. And we don't even recognize it. We're like frogs in the pot. The darkness is contagious. We don't recognize this dystopian nature of what's going on. You know, your suicide drugs being delivered to you by the state in the mail. If your courier knocks on your door, he says, here's your pills. So I was now the custodian of the deadly powder. She says, it was the weirdest thing. And I said, this might sound really weird, but can I give you a hug and take your picture? And he said, sure, no problem. And she then goes on to say, it was such a poignant moment. Like, wait a minute, I now have in my possession the thing. She's calling it the thing, right? I ended up putting both packages on a shelf in my closet. She says, joking that I've got this time bomb in my closet. And this whole thing is insanely dystopian. This is not normal. A courier comes, a total stranger delivers lethal drugs for your parents to commit suicide, and you have to hug the guy and get your picture taken with him? This, like, surely to outsiders, we in any other circumstance, any other time in history, we'd be looking at this and we'd be saying, hold on, something's not right here. Red flags, red flags, red flags. This is a major magazine article celebrating this moment, treating it like it's good. It's insane. As I said, the triumph of the sort of Rousseauian feelings above all else, It was a poignant moment. And then she says, I've got this time bomb in my closet. Again, this is insane. You've got two, not just one, but two lethal drug dosages sitting there that potentially anybody could use, and they're sitting in your family home. Either deliberately, someone who is suicidal, who actually they weren't intended for, or someone who, like a child, who stumbles upon them accidentally and takes it. And it's sitting in a family home. And we're like, oh yeah, that's all cool. Name one other situation where we tolerate this kind of stuff. We live in the age of health and safety obsessionism. and this is going on. And we think this is normal. This is the inconsistency, right? Corinne then had a few conversations with her parents about picking the perfect death date, joking about not ruining any upcoming holidays or birthdays. You see what's going on here? There's pressure going on the parents. It implies that she's the one making these jokes. In other words, the implication is that why can't we see here that they could very easily take this as that they would be a burden if they went out on particular dates, so they've got to choose a date that's not going to make them a burden. That's just our family. You'll know we're really dead if we're not laughing, Corinne quips. But here's the thing. Again, this is presented as if it's somehow this is a memento mori moment, an actual facing of death, and you are dust, and unto dust you shall return. Someone who's facing death head on. It's not. That's not what's going on here. It's escapism. It's running from death. The very act itself is a desperate, fearful fleeing from natural death. That's the whole point. I am so afraid I will make myself dead because I don't want to go through, and I don't want to go on that journey. And it's touted as being not just dignified, but it's touted as this is the courageous thing. It's the people who are not afraid of death. It's not. It's nothing of the sort. It is, again, the Rousseauian triumph of feelings over facts. And it's absolutely shocking. You'll know we're really dead if we stop the gallows humor. No, gallows humor is really an attempt to try and escape and look away from the gallows. It's not embracing the reality of it in a deep way. That would be to go on the journey of death with your parents, but that's not what happened. Instead, they took the suicide route. And then it gets even more astounding when you think about stop and consider what's actually being said here. So I said, I've got this really ridiculous idea. This is the daughter speaking to her parents, remember? So I said, I've got this really ridiculous idea. This is so wicked. Friday the 13th is coming up. Let's do it then. I'm just kidding. That's what she claims she said. Friday the 13th is coming up. Let's do it. This is her idea. Oh, I'm just kidding. And my mum looks at me and says, okay, I could do that, she recalls. So we're having this kind of joking conversation. And, the realization is that whatever date you're going to pick, it's going to ruin that date for the rest of your life. So what difference does it make? This is astounding. Like in any other circumstance, you would recognize this for what it is. It's coercion. It is coercive behavior. And you hear the story told, and you're like, these vulnerable older people, the jokes about not ruining, those dates or not ruining the holidays. And again, reinforcing the lie that they are a burden and their death shouldn't be a burden on anybody else. No, it's actually supposed to be. Like, we are supposed to be a burden, as hard as that is for us to accept in our modern context, because it's a gift that we give to people. We owe our death. I owe my death as a debt, not so much a debt really, as a gift that I give to my family and to my loved ones in my community. I am giving them this gift that calls them out of their self, like in a really profound way, to love in a way that normally we are not ever afforded the opportunity to love in such a profound and self-giving way. It's very surreal. It's very profound. It's a beautiful mystery of the Christian tradition. And without the Christian tradition and culture, you can see what's happening here. But leaving that aside, to see the situation where basically she's the one who's proposed the date, and that's exactly what they did. They suicided on Friday the 13th because their daughter told them, I've had this wicked idea, you should do this. Under any other circumstances, we would rightly recognise this as coercive and aberrant behaviour and extremely troubling behaviour. But this is the darkness. This is Leonard Cohen's darkness. We're drinking from the cup. It's contagious. And now we get to this darkness, this ever-growing darkness, and the reality of what it represents, and that is child euthanasia. So there's been an article that's been published by Fox News. I think others have highlighted this as well, but it is, I think, a very important expose about what's going on. And so I thought it would be worthy for us to work our way through this and just explore the reality of what this article is pointing to in this episode. So let's jump into this now. In the spring of 2022, Canadian teenager Marcus Schutten's, I think that's how you'd say that, dying wish was that no child should be forced to choose between life and death. Marcus had just learned he was about to die. His oncologist broke the news to him and his family on the 8th floor cancer ward at British Columbia Children's Hospital in Vancouver, Canada. They held each other, weeping. Weeks later, lying on his family's living room sofa, Marcus dictated a letter to the Canadian Parliament's Special Joint Committee on Medical Assistance in Dying, so that's the Euthanasia Committee, established to set guidelines on a federal law that allowed assisted suicide in Canada in 2016. Marcus opposed lobbying efforts to expand the law to children under the age of 18. That's because life is worth living. And look at it, what a beautiful man. What a beautiful young man. Like, yeah, I can feel the tears already. Sorry, just... This is the witness. This is the truth. It's just, yeah, this is sacred. Anyway, the alternative is not. It's the darkness. It's Leonard Cohen's darkness. That's because life is worth living and we should always work to alleviate suffering without eliminating the sufferer, read the final letter, which was signed by his parents. The letter closed, life is worth living even when we are dying. And that's beautiful. A month later, Marcus died, surrounded by his family and friends, telling them, see you in paradise. Now, by the way, you don't say that unless you've got deep wells of meaning, of goodness, truth, and beauty to draw from. And that's exactly what the Christian tradition gives to people. Deep wells to draw from in those moments of suffering and hardship. Without that, well, it sort of looks like suicide is your only option, right? The vapid way out. 3 years later, his parents, Mike and Jennifer Schutten, are carrying the torch for Marcus in a mission to block efforts to allow mature minors, and that's the phrase that's being used all over the place, by the way, the right to choose to die through assisted suicide. Then, and think about the perversity of this. In an age where we have really, not perfected, but strongly built, anti-suicide campaigns targeting youth and young people, saying, no, life is worth living, and now this is going on. The darkness is contagious. They now work alongside a global network of like-minded advocates, including disability rights groups, who argue the assisted suicide industry targets vulnerable people who would benefit from assisted living services. Already in Canada, the law is expected to expand to patients with severe psychiatric disorders as early as 2027. And you've heard me talk about this previously on previous episodes. It was supposed to actually be happening already, but there's been a bit of a delay. The delay doesn't appear to be holding things up. It's just a delay and a pause and things. But there's no indication that this is not going to go ahead. So basically, if you've got a psychiatric disorder, you will be eligible in Canada. But they are up against a powerful, well-funded machine, and this is quite a key point to recognise. A Fox Digital investigation reveals the Schuttens and other opponents of euthanasia face a multi-million-dollar global lobby that could be called Assisted Suicide Inc., or Big Euthanasia, if you like. A sprawling network changing laws worldwide, developing euthanasia services for funeral parlours, selling suicide pods, promoting suicide tourism, and even training doulas for death, people who will journey alongside you to help you take your own life. It is dystopian and it is corporatised. It absolutely is. And we've got to recognise it for what it is. And if we're going to talk about unhealthy corporate influence in our culture and corporate irresponsibility, etc., then we need to have a conversation about this. And I'm not surprised, because the big pushers for legalised euthanasia are the elite tier members of society. They've got the funds and the money to back and to put into this kind of stuff. As we continue to expand the euthanasia regime, all the safeguards and windows have gone out the window. Safeguards and windows. It's interesting way of framing it, said Mike Shooten. And it becomes open season for anyone to choose death, including children. What began as a limited effort to provide adults with a terminal illness the ability to end pain and suffering has now grown into an international industry, according to a database compiled by the Pearl Project, a non-profit journalism initiative. At least 96 organisations worldwide are now part of this movement. It's huge. The global lobby cloaks assisted suicide in the language of civil rights and human rights, using the euphemism in their names such as assisted dying, medical assistance in dying, dying with dignity, choice, end of life, completed life, final exit, free exit, and the right to die, which is probably the most absurd of all because it's not a right to die. Everyone is actually going to die. Like, no one can deprive you of dying. It will happen. You just got to live long enough and it will happen. It's guaranteed. It's like saying, I demand the right to get old. There's no such right. It's happening as you speak. So, you can't claim death as a right. And the reason they went that way, though, was because they wanted to claim suicide as a right, but they didn't want to claim suicide as a right. So they used the euphemism instead. These groups have a presence on every continent, but are predominantly found in the West, which also faces alarmingly low birth rates. There are 41, and that's important to recognise because it's putting pressure on the other end of life and healthcare costs. So there's a corporate and economic convenience for the state here. And without God, don't be stunned and surprised by that. It's just the nature of things. That is the vacuum, the darkness, the privation of good. That's what evil is. There are 41 groups in Europe, 31 groups in North America, with 25 of them in the United States, 4 in Canada, and 2 in Mexico, 13 in Oceania, with most in Australia and 1 in New Zealand. Well, there's actually probably more than 1 in New Zealand, and only 5 in Asia, 2 in Africa, and 3 in South America. While most of their work is focused on adults, with Rupert Munch, I think that's how you say that, the Canadian author of the best-selling children's book, Love You Forever, which is kind of ironic when you think about this, the latest high-profile person to recently announce he was approved for assisted suicide after being diagnosed with dementia. Hello, Doc, come kill me, he joked, sharing the news. What is it with elite people who do this, having to gloat about it and go online about this? Like, the whole thing of dignity and death is just, this is supposedly the thing. It goes out the window. You know, the people who have a dignified death, I think of someone like David Bowie. He didn't even tell the world that he had terminal illness. No one knew. His death was a total shock. Didn't make a big show of it. There's a dignity in that, but these guys are always sort of using their death in this way, which is kind of ironic. The boundaries are shifting. Behind the push to extend these laws to children lies a legal Trojan horse, the mature minor doctrine. This concept, first established in a 1967 Washington Supreme Court case, and actually, I'll talk about the origins of this in just a second because this is kind of peak liberalism, the mature minor doctrine. I'll explain why in just a second. Smith versus Sibley, I think that's how you say that, once allowed limited medical discretion for minors. But over decades, it has metastasized into a sweeping jurisdiction for granting children autonomy and secrecy over their medical decisions. Not just medical decisions, but all sorts of stuff, really. Today, it lets minors make choices without parental involvement on gender pronouns, gender transitions, contraception, and abortion. In 13 US states and the District of Columbia, minors can even obtain abortions without parental knowledge. Same here in New Zealand. This has its genesis in liberalism. Why? Because liberalism does not recognize the human person as being part of a prior tradition or a prior community. Like, if you want to choose a tradition or you want to choose a community, liberalism says that's your choice. You should be able to reason your way to it and you're a free individual, etc., and with your consent, go for it. But what it doesn't do is it doesn't recognize that there might be existing prior communities that actually do have rights on you or claims on you. And the most obvious and most important of all of those communities is the family. And so liberalism doesn't recognize the family as a community. It recognizes the family as a group of individuals, autonomous, self-choosing individuals, including the children, who are just all grouped together in this thing you call family, which is now why increasingly people are calling all sorts of arrangements family. Oh, I've got 2 dogs and a pot plant. Why can't that be a family? How dare you say that's not a family? This is very much liberalism taken to its obvious and natural end. And so that's where this idea came from. It's not, I think the danger here is we can say, oh, this is just a legal precedent. No, underpinning this is actually first an ideology, a philosophy, a worldview that actually shaped culture, and then it actually, emanated, which is a reference to the Roe v. Wade case, if you know that case in the language of emanations from penumbras, which is actually what it says in that ruling. Those who don't get that deep cut, basically it arose from that cultural context. And sometimes we sort of think it's just a legal thing, and that's been a trap that we've fallen into at times. I know some people on the right side of things, the conservative side, have sometimes thought, it's just a legal decision. If you overturn the legal decision, that'll fix the problem. No, there's a deeper cultural problem there. There's an ideology, there's a worldview, and that has shaped and given rise to this idea. Now advocates are leveraging that same doctrine to argue that children should have the medical autonomy to choose death. The National Youth Rights Association, a 501c, so that's a charity, non-profit based in Hyattsville, uses the mature minors to die by physician-assisted suicide. So this is they're lobbying for this. They're a charity lobbying for this. Euthanasia is already legal for adults in Australia, Belgium, Colombia, the Netherlands, New Zealand, Spain, and 11 US states. But 3 countries, the Netherlands, Belgium, and Colombia, have gone further, allowing mature minors, children, to die by physician-assisted suicide. In February 2023, despite the pleas of Marcus and his parents, Canada's Special Joint Committee, and I don't know, I'm just looking here in the article, but basically I believe Belgium might be the youngest. I believe the youngest child so far in Belgium is an 11-year-old who had euthanasia. They've had very young children there. This happened some years ago. But we could also talk about the Netherlands, how they have the Guneding Protocol, which is named after the hospital in Guneding, which is a region where since the early 2000s, they have been euthanizing. So obviously this is involuntary because the children are too young to consent, newborn infants with disabilities and other conditions who are deemed incompatible with life. So that's already been happening at that end of the spectrum there for several decades. In February 2023, despite the pleas of Marcus and his parents, Canada's Special Joint Committee on Medical Assistance in Dying recommended extending the right to some youth, declaring that parents should be consulted, but that the will of a minor with decision-making capacity ultimately takes priority. This is Enlightenment liberalism on a plate, hot, fresh out of the oven. This is exactly what it is. The autonomous, self-choosing individual who reasons their own way to choices, and who is the state exists to facilitate, the state only exists with their consent and to facilitate more and more of their quote-unquote freedom. This is liberalism in a nutshell. The same debate has now reached the United Kingdom, where a bill to allow adult euthanasia is moving through the British Parliament. Earlier this year, the British House of Commons narrowly voted 259 to 216 to bar physicians from discussing assisted suicide with youth, meaning nearly half of lawmakers supported discussing assisted suicide for youth. This is who we're being governed by. It's crazy. And okay, part of the problem is you could say that some of the more qualified people don't want to go near politics because it's just a mess. Sure, that's not an invalid claim to make, but it's also, as the Irish would say, and I'm part of the Irish tradition, the Irish would say the people get the politicians and the clergy that they deserve. In other words, your clergy and your politicians arise from your families. And we are getting, this is the go-around. This is the fruit of what our culture has given rise to. This is who we're being governed by. Catherine Bilbal-Singh, I think that's how you say that, Bilbal-Singh, a British educator known as Britain's strictest headmistress, believes it's only a matter of time before youth are included. Assisted suicide will spread, full stop, she told Fox Digital, and the people allowed to do assisted suicide will grow, making it younger and younger. Yeah, and that's true. That's exactly, this is the darkness. Bilbal-Singh, man, I'm sorry. Apologies, this is terrible, isn't it? Bilbal-Singh argues that Western societies have fallen for the dangerous illusion that the child must lead, leading to thinking such as, oh, he wants to change his gender or he wants to commit suicide. Yes, again, this is Enlightenment liberalism. Jean-Jacques Rousseau, we mentioned him earlier in this episode. The idea that you are born with a state of nature where you are able to better discern virtue and to reason better. And then what he claimed was that, corrupting layers of society are heaped upon you as you grow older, and more of those layers corrupt that natural state. He's really thinking of Christianity here. And so what the implication of this is that the younger you are, the less years you've been alive, the less amount of corrupting influence has been heaped upon you because you're younger. You haven't had as many years in the machine, if you like. And so this idea gives rise to this notion that children just have this sort of natural agency and capacity, and we've just sort of got to open up the doors for them and they'll start making good, wise decisions, instead of recognizing that in actual fact, they need help. They need older, wiser, virtuous people to help them grow in virtue and to teach them. And so this is a reflection of that reality. Once upon a time, she said, adults used to say, no, the child is not capable of leading because he is a child. Well, this is exactly what I was just saying, actually. In the West, we have forgotten that we are meant to be in charge as adults. there's just, and what's worse is we're eroding that now too. There was several decades ago, there was a constant slew of, the super nanny type phenomena where often experts who didn't even have children of their own, were telling parents how to parent. Now, sometimes parents need that help, got no problem there. But when this becomes normalized in entertainment, culture, and everything else, what it does is it erodes. It was, I think, one of the first big creeping technocracies actually was around parenthood, where parents were told that they needed to actually just put aside their instincts and the parenting experts would guide them. The technocratic experts would guide them in this, and it erodes confidence. And parents lose what they should have, which is a general sense of reality. On top of that, if you're not seeing communal family culture around you, and that's not unusual for a lot of people today, you're not in contact and connection actively with the older generation who can help you and guide you as well and hand on their wisdom. So it's just one big mess that's all sort of creating this problem. There's just a million reasons why young people would want to choose death, said Belgium. Man, I think am I changing every time I say it? Apologies. The founder of the Michaela Community School in London. Young people are compulsive. They make whimsical decisions. They make irresponsible decisions. They're young. That's sort of the definition of a child. And it's kind of interesting too. Even like our oldest daughter is 18 and she's amazingly mature for age and doing all sorts of amazing stuff and really has saved a ton of money already, bought herself a car already and all these amazing things. But then there are these moments where she just, again, you sort of are reminded, oh yeah, she's still young. That sort of that lack of wisdom and experience just comes through. We all had that. It was part of my life too, your life as well. It's the journey we all go on. That's why they need looking after. Belgium. Apologies, man. Someone should just call her Mrs. B. I think it's Mrs. B, isn't it? She's married. That would have been a whole lot easier. That's why we need to look after them as adults. That's our job. It's our role in life to keep and protect them, sometimes from themselves. Amen to that. The people making these decisions just don't understand young people. They have an ideological view that's just wrong of the human person. It's not just young people. It's an anthropology about the human person that is wrong. What they believe a person is not correct. Lawmakers said there was a very real risk that proposed assisted suicide legislation called the Terminally Ill Adults End of Life Bill, this is in the UK, would be expanded to include children if they didn't vote for her amendment. British Labour Party MP Meg Hillier voiced similar concerns during parliamentary debate, warning that teen brains make them particularly susceptible to being influenced, including into dangerous and risky behaviour. And so you've got to think about suicidal ideation in a culture that is celebrating and holding up suicide as a dignified and good thing to do. You can't then sit there and say, well, don't worry, young people who don't process information the same way and who have these issues with prudence because of their brain development, don't worry, they won't take that as a good example to follow. They won't see it as glamorous. It's just so disconnected from reality. That's what selfishness does, though. That's what liberalism does. Silos us off from each other to such a degree that we stop recognising how our behaviours have communal ripples. They ripple out into the community. And we're like, oh, it's just an adult choosing for themselves. It's all private. What's the big deal? Doesn't harm you. No, it does. It absolutely does, because those actions take place. All of our actions are unfolding in a communal context. We are part of community. And so they ripple out into the community. She said, in a number of countries, assisted dying laws have been expanded to allow children and young people to end their lives. We need to be alert to that very real risk. Yep, sure, but the problem is once you cross the Rubicon and allow it for adults, then everything else, basically, it's academic. It's a matter of time. The only red line that makes any coherent, logical, moral sense is don't legalise it. Once you cross that line, everything else, well, how can you justify saying no to children? You don't, not treat children in other circumstances. Once you've legalised euthanasia and said it's a legitimate medical treatment, then why would you deny legitimate medical treatment to young people? The red line, the Rubicon, is the legalisation. Another MP, Scorcher Eastwood, cited social media's toll on youth brain health, saying if we throw this into the mix, it has the potential to do untold damage. Yeah, and again, and that's not even really talking about the cultural milieu and the way the culture views assisted suicide and death and dying changes and the darkness descends. And young people are affected by that. They grow up in that culture. Like when everyone is freaking out about climate change hysteria, as the studies are now showing us, we've got a problem with a young generation of people who are struggling with very serious anxiety on the back of that. It's in the cultural waters, basically. And the same thing is true with this. So far, pro-euthanasia groups in the US have remained quiet about extending assisted suicide to minors. That's always been the strategy. Just shh, don't tell them what the real end game is. You start with the small stuff and you don't tell them what the long game is. But critics fear it's only a matter of time. The British Children's Commissioner, Dame Rachel D'Souza, at last a name, that is so comfortable and refreshing and easy for me to pronounce, warned that the proposed changes would allow doctors to discuss assisted dying with 17-year-olds deemed competent, preparing them for the choice upon turning 18. In a May report, she said that she had convened a panel of youth to discuss the issue. In Canada, the euphemism maid or medical assistance in dying has softened the conversation. Again, people say, how does this affect you? Well, your misuse of language is affecting everyone. The whole culture has been confused by this. But the statistics are stark. In 2023, about 15,000 Canadians died through MAID, about 1 in every 20 deaths nationwide. A 16% increase from 2022, making assisted suicide the 5th leading cause of death, which is astounding. You want to talk about cultural lemming behaviour, rushing off the cliff at 100 miles an hour? This is it, folks. And it is just diabolical and tragic in equal measures. The movement is also big business. Dying with Dignity Canada, based in Toronto, reported $3 million in expenses in 2024, including $803,555. So 800,000, almost 804,000 for advertising and promotions. It publicly argues that mature minors should be allowed the right to choose MAID, calling it unfair to deny a 17-year-old whereas a 70-year-old is granted. And I'm sorry, but that argument absolutely is logically consistent. If you accept the premise that it's okay and it's a good thing to do this to people, then how can you say some people are not allowed to do this to themselves? You know, like it or lump it, they're the ones who are being consistent about this. The British Columbia Humanist Association, the Canada chapter of Humanists International, a non-profit based in New York City, likewise demands MAID access for mature minors and those whose sole underlying condition is mental illness. It's insisting there is no moral or ethical distinction between a mature minor and a young adult. It argues ensure dignity in death. The High Priestess of Euthanasia, Dr. Ellen Wiebe, also supports extending assisted suicide to children. Why am I not surprised with that particular dystopian dealer of death being a proponent of this? The Netherlands offers a preview of what comes next. Legal since 2002, Dutch euthanasia law permits doctors to end the lives of children as young as 1, including newborns, suffering unbearably with no prospects of improvement. By 2024, euthanasia accounted for 9,958 deaths in 2024, or 5.8% of the country's deaths. A recent study published in the International Journal of Psychiatry found that among Dutch euthanasia applicants, 73% were young women with psychiatric diagnoses, including major depression, autism, eating disorder, trauma-related disorders, and a history of suicidality. The researchers acknowledged there is an urgent need to study persistent death wishes in this high-risk group. And even if they do get around to studying it, I'm not confident that it will ever come to anything, because big euthanasia is just so powerful, and they will use that power and financial backing they've got to shut down anything that threatens big euthanasia. In one chilling case, a boy with autism aged 16 to 18 ended his life after describing it as joyless and lonely, according to the 2024 annual report of the Regional Euthanasia Review Committees, which approves medical assisted suicides. His doctor had no doubt about his decisional competence. The doctor is morally culpable for something truly abhorrent there. It's just insane. Oh, I've got no doubt about his decisional competence. Really? Then you probably shouldn't be practicing medicine if under this circumstance you can't see why there would be decision-making competence issues. I mean, I'm sorry, I'm a bit fired up about this, but this is a young man whose life was ended, and it was aided and abetted by a state that is just so corrupt. Last year, 14 Dutch psychiatrists urged prosecutors to investigate a case involving a 17-year-old girl, Milou, I think it's Milou, who, I'm not sure how you might say that, but who died by euthanasia after years of depression, anxiety, and suicidal ideation following childhood sexual abuse. They warned against the widespread promotion of euthanasia, leading to unnecessary deaths. The Royal Dutch Medical Association scolded the psychiatrists, and prosecutors declined to act. That's the state of affairs, folks. That's what it is. The elites are our betters, and they know better. In 2014, Belgium became the second country in the world to allow child euthanasia, requiring parental consent. The Belgian Federal Euthanasia Review and Evaluation Committee says that 6 youths have requested euthanasia between 2014 and 2024. Last year, 1 young person made the request. The industry has faced allegedly criminal revelations. In Australia, one alleged euthanasia ring kingpin, Brett Daniel Taylor, faces prison for selling vulnerable people lethal voluntary drugs nicknamed the Green Dream. You might remember a couple of episodes ago we talked about this incident. Back in Canada, Mike and Jennifer Shooten remained committed to fulfilling their son's wish. Good on the man. What a legacy to leave behind him too, by the way. Michael remembers Marcus lying on the sofa, dictating the words that became his son's final message to lawmakers. One day in his final days, Marcus said to his parents, "I can see what you are doing with your work is connected to what we're going through. If we can share our story, we should." Now, Michael says, "I feel he is blessing our work." And man, what a battle that they've got ahead of them. And it's just, this is the evil nature of what it is. And we live in this Leonard Cohen state of denial. We're drinking from the cup of darkness and we're going, is this contagious? Well, in fact, we're not even asking the question how contagious this is. We are those proverbial frogs boiling in a pot. So don't be the frog. Don't be the fish that goes with the flow. Only dead fish go with the flow. Be the fish that swims against the tide, because you are swimming with the current of goodness, truth, and beauty. You're not just being dragged along by feelings or by the strongest force or the most powerful lobby group with an ideology that has been forced upon society. Proactively build community, care for the vulnerable that are in your sphere of influence, within your orbit, the elderly. If your parents are still here, remind them daily that they are valued, care for them practically, be with them, be their advocates. This is how we build the culture of life, and this is how we push back. The legislation is a dog's breakfast. The people who lead us, it's an absolute mess. There are some good people in there, but what a mess. And so we've just got to do our bit to form that parallel polis, as Václav Bender, the great Christian dissident of Soviet communism in Czechoslovakia, when he wrote that essay, The Parallel Polis, build and live that counterculture of goodness, truth and beauty that actually does the right things, even if society at large is doing something truly abhorrent.
There is a longing only you can fill, a raging tempest only you can still. My soul is thirsty, Lord, to know you as I'm known. Drink from the river that flows before your throne. Take me deeper, deeper in love with you. Jesus, hold me close in your embrace. Take me deeper, deeper than I've ever been before. I just wanna love you more and more. How I long to be deeper in love. Your face, drawn by the Spirit to the promise of your grace. My heart is found in you, a hope that will abide. Here in your presence, forever satisfied. Take me deeper,